Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Lake Hot Rods. Today I'm going to start working on the console some more. I was working on mudding it the other day along with mudded the dash, and in the last video I showed that. But I wanted to continue on and get this dash kind of smooth in the transition where it goes into the dashboard, the console here. Get this filled in and get the ashtray filled in and start finishing up the console lid and try to figure out the shifter surround. I got an idea to how to weld a couple of studs here and make a plate to go on the bottom so that'll hold the boot up that goes around the shifter mechanism there. I started grinding down on the welds, and then I realized these side panels are a little floppy for my liking. So when I start mudding in this and this starts moving around, the likelihood of this cracking off is a little higher than I would like. So I got this metal rod. I shaped up already because when I had it at the house at the other garage, damn it, that I shaped up already, and gonna weld it to this edge here on the inside, and that will significantly take that flop out of there once it's welded, of course. I was thinking about going from side to side too, just to give it some more structure, but I'm really not sure what I'm going to need in here as far as room for the HVAC and stuff like that. So I'm going to wait. Maybe I'll do something that bolts in, and that way I can take it in and out if I need to. I can always weld a tab on here and just do that. But the brackets under the dash on the floor here, I'm going to use these holes and screw it into the floor. So that'll also give it some support. But I just want to get them welded up, and we'll start working on this console and getting it finished up. And I brought the panel out for my gauges. It's kind of misshapen. I'm going to try to get it back and see if I can save this piece and use this for my gauge pod in the dash, which I got sitting over here in the background. But we'll worry about that in a minute. I'm going to get these welded up, and we'll move on from there. I'm going to clean these rods up, this round stock, because it's got some crusty on it, and it's got a coating on it, and it's a little rusty. So we'll get that cleaned off, and it'll weld a lot better. little hard to hang on to. So this is really not sure. This is a pre-bent piece. Like I said, I made just basic hammer and I hammered it over this dolly that was wedged in my vise. Go ahead and get this fit in here, and I'm gonna tack it all the way up here, all the way through here, and up into here. This part, the curved part here, is what's really going to hold this panel from flopping once I get it welded. Because when I move it, the gap, you can see the gap start right there, but it'll have to tie it all in, and I'll tack it in there. I need to trim it a little bit. Actually, it wouldn't really hurt if it tucked in there, so it's not a big deal. All this is going to be hidden and gone away. At first I was going to make it panel like that, but then it's not really a need. There's nothing that's going to attach to it on top here, so I'll just strengthen it like that, and we'll see what that'll do. If need be, I'll come back and make another one, I guess. I think this will hold good. And I can also get these edges filled in and just finish this in. It'll help finish it up so I can get it mudded up, get the sides smooth. I may go ahead and weld up all these trim holes. There's a piece of trim that goes all the way down, but I don't know. For one thing, I messed it up. I burned a hole in it up here, but it could be thick. It's stainless, but I don't know if I want to keep it. I think there's not going to be much trim in the car, on the car outside either. I just think It'd be better just to slick it up, smooth it off, and be done with it. So we'll go ahead and touch these holes here, and if need be, I can come back and drill the holes out. We'll drill, but it's a simple procedure. But we'll go ahead and clean those up while I'm at it, while I think about it. All right, let's start welding. Oh, I can end up burning a little bit of that off when I hit it with the tack with a welder, but I tried to stay away from it. I think I did that, and then I realized I need to strengthen this up. So sometimes you work backwards to go forwards. You know how it is. All right, clamped in place. Got a decent gap to weld, and all the way down through here. And like I said, I'll fold this edge over more to kind of finish it. So if you can grab a hold of that, it's not sharp, but just unfinished. So once I weld all this, I'll get a good radius grind on it, and it'll look like a finished piece. So let's get to it. Still a little floppy, but it's better than that. So I think it'll survive. Cool off and move around. Go ahead and hit these little holes for that trim. All right. All right, while I'm waiting on the welds to kind of cool down, I don't want to work the crap out of this thing. So went ahead and cut or trimmed out a piece for the ashtray filler. I'm going to trim it oversized and kind of curve the edges down a little bit so that it can fill this gap that's in here and help push the panel up a little bit so it'll weld flush and look better. This is going to have to need a little bit of a curve too. So I'll do that. We'll stick it on the bandsaw and get it cut out. But I got this cheap guy, and it works just fine. So I know this got an arch to it. So that's got a decent, you can see the arch a little bit, but compared to a straight panel. So it's slight, but I mean, it is enough to make a difference in the final product. So I think. I can take a fairly stout, I think this is nylon, kind of like what skateboard wheels are made out of, but it's stout enough, but it won't mar up the surface of the panel like a ball peen hammer would. So let's stick it in the vise and see what we can come up with. I've used this a lot. This vise here has a nice curve to it. Most do. I use it a lot as a little radius panel to radius my panels. Just give it a little love in the middle. More. That little guy in the middle keeps falling out, but that's pretty dang close. I'm calling that good. Just that little light, little love tap, and no marring up on the surface. But it's gonna get filled over anyway. But still, so that'll fill in right there. Perfect. Do a little more trimming because I trimmed it big. Cut around this perimeter and weld it in the right way. And that way you don't have all this on the bottom. I like to keep where these ridges are. You can barely see them in the camera, but there are in the end here and the end here, and there's three little nubs on the end. I want to keep those because that will help me line up the bar that I'm going to use at round stock to recreate that. So I want to keep those best I can. So I'm going to trim this a little bit. Sneak up on it. Over to the bandsaw real quick and see what that'll do. That's fitting pretty dang good right there, if I don't say so myself. I'm going to trace it out. That's good. I like that. Just enough. Grab a couple of magnets. That'll help hold it in place. Give me an extra set of hands. That's cool. More weld that. I like it. Get the welder fired back up here. All right. Down, and we'll move back to the front. I'm gonna try to finish the welds on this guy. Well, I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance because I made a boo-boo and dropped my microphone. Actually, I dropped my phone, and the microphone plugs into the base of it. So I broke it. It's busted. So the rest of this video, I'm not going to have a mic. I'm sorry. But I'm just going to do a lot of grinding, get all this shaped up, and I'm going to get the ashtray shaped up where I cut it off. And figure out, I may set this console back in the car and figure out where I can attach some studs to the bottom of this hole here so I can The idea is to have the shifter boot come up and attach to the shifter up here, so it'll look like a, just look like a finished piece, like a newer car has. Really, any car with a shifter in it has that boot around it. But I need to make this hole a little bigger, but I don't know how much bigger. So I'll probably sit it in the car and fit that up and just cut it out just big enough to fit the shifter, because the bar for the shifter actually comes up and rides right on top of that, or bottom of that, so that's close. But if I have to cut it, it'll be fine. That's not a big deal. And then I'm gonna try to cut it to where I don't have to remake these ribs. Whittle away at it and get it bigger as I need it, and not go too big, because it's hard to add metal back. But we'll get some grinding and finish this up for today. The point of getting this finished here is so I can put the dashboard back on. I don't have a welder at my home garage. I can put the dashboard back together and then start body working this, so that transition is perfect, and we just have that nice crisp line separating these two panels. And I can go ahead and fill all this and work all these holes that I filled in, and this part here. No more welding. You don't want to weld when you have filler on there, because it melts. Imagine that. So anyway, back to grinding. I remember the other thing I wanted to kind of try to fix while I was here, because like I said, I don't have access to a welder at my house. Is this panel here. One side was a little lower, and I think it's because of where I modified this hinge. I cut this top off, and I think I got it at an angle a little bit down on this end. So I'd like to cut that off and just space it just a hair, so the back of this panel is flush. So I'm going to zip this off with the cutoff wheel and pry it open and tack it a little bit while I'm here. Cool, I got it too high now. So, probably what I'll do is just make some adjustments on the bottom side of this hinge. Maybe with a washer spacer. Do that. Not terrible. A couple little love taps will make it fit nicely, and I still got to get turned up a little bit better on the edges. So we push down and pop up. And I'll end up, I think I said it before, I'll end up letting a little box in here or something to keep stuff in. I got these two original holes, and they keep those and attach the box right there with some tabs across the front there. And then along the back side, maybe use the hinge as a pickup point. Let's do a paper template, and that way I won't waste metal. I'm using this super bright, easily seen paper. It's like neon yellow, it's crazy. All right, let's see what we got. Let's think about this for a second. All right, so I installed the console back in the car, and just to kind of get an idea of how much room I have for a box down in here. And it's actually a pretty good bit of room, way more than I thought. Probably got about we'll call that 3.5 inches. That's the deepest I'd probably want to go. I got wires that go underneath the console, but I can run them along the edges. I do want to make sure that hinge looks like it'll clear fine. I'll just run some notches in the box so that it can pivot through there, and I'll get rid of this. That's part of the different hinge. The hinge come off a different car, so it's not needed here. The hinge has got enough friction on it now, but I think originally it had some sort of a spring in here, and I don't know that I still have that, so got to come up with something different. But I'm pretty happy about having enough room in here. Probably gonna just go ahead and do a 3-inch deep box, and that way the box itself, the console is not sitting on the box, so when you lean on it, it doesn't. Obviously, these brackets are temporary in here just to position it, but yeah, I think that'll work. It only gets deeper up front, so as shallow as it. Actually, 3.5 inches is plenty. So I'll go 3. That's more than enough junk. Enough spot for junk to collect what I don't want to happen. But anyway, let's bust this back out of here, and we'll get to building the box, at least the template for it. I kind of was thinking in my head to leave that open. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm not that good. So that way I can have the hinge open down here at the back and see where the interference is. I'm thinking I'll go ahead and zip these off, because it's not allowing my box to slide back and kind of fit where I want it. I'm trying to do this one-handed. So I'm not sure though if I want to cut that off just yet. I may just cut the pattern and see where it lands, how it lands, stuff like that. Alright, stuff. I'm going to trim this and trim around that. It's about right in here. No big deal. And I'll trim this down, this flange down as well. Back to rambling. Alright, so box trimmed. Just gotta sit it down in here. So, temporary box. Got enough room here to catch this flange where these holes will be caught, and I can weld some studs in there and maybe run a screw in there or something like that. But other than the back side there to clear the hinge. So on the inside, I'll push this far forward, and I'll have to add some material in here to catch that hole, or I could run a flush screw up in there. Hidden screws are that panel closed. That screw's hidden once you open it. It's okay to see a fastener there. I can run a zip screw in the box, speed nut, and then run a screw down into it and get a flush fit one. Probably could do the same for the back side. Figure out some sort of way to catch a lip or something in the back. Catch a fastener. Should have welded these up, but I'm liking it. I am liking it. So, like that, and then you got your box in there. Cool. That's deep enough for a bunch of crap. Put a personal protection device in there. Cell phone. I'll probably put a port in there on the side or something like that, and run. I'd like to run the wireless charger, so I can just attach it in here and just sit my phone on it. It'll magnetically dock. Probably be what I do. But I would like to strategically place that in there so that I can put other things in there as well. Keep it nice and tidy. and not get too much junk in there. The more room you put in there, the more junk you're gonna pile in there, guarantee it. So yeah, I like that. I'll cut this. I'm gonna add the back side first, and then I'll take my template apart and put it on the sheet metal here and start bending it up and go from there. I'm going to use this to have the lid pop down on, and so when you'll push the lid and this thing will pop up. So anyway, that pops out of there, and you can see it extends, and when you push it down it collapses, so that'll help be able to pop the lid open and grab it. And I'll have some more little rubber stoppers here to kind of help that ride on, but it'll also have a pad on the top, so it'll have a little bit more weight on it, keep it from just bouncing around and rattling. But it won't actually have a latch yet that I don't think it'll be necessary. If I do need to, I can put a magnet in here, but I think just the weight of it falling down on it and you leaning on it, it'll be fine. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I went ahead and cut the hole here for that and installed this. I'm going to place that under there and fit it. And I'm going to build this out of a plastic material, maybe like ABS that they make, like the stereo covers or the pieces that you can put in your car and cover the hole where the stereo, aftermarket stereo is. So I could form it and heat it up and bend it and shape it the way I want it. I got to get a sheet of that or something along that line is what I was thinking. I've made a few things out of it before, and it's pretty easy to work with. Plus I can plastic weld it and make the seams nice if I need to cut it and you know, make a hard edge instead of a bend. But I think you can score it and bend it and get away with it. And once I glue the front edges to it, it'll be just fine. I need to figure out the back for the hinge clearance, but I want to make it enough room that it's worth making and having for one. So I'm going to bolt this in here just with some little good old 1/4 screws and see if I can get it held in place tight enough that I can flip it around and move it and mark it up. So yeah. Alright, so that's what the little box looks like from the bottom side. I need to reinstall that hinge. I actually had to cut it here. I still need to cut through this part. I couldn't get it off without cutting the damn thing out. I made it in there and somehow got it in there, wedged in there and bolted in. But then when I went to remove it, I needed to cut this front edge of the flange off. I had planned on cutting it off anyway because it stuck out and it was just more for cosmetic. But then once I realized I couldn't get the hinge apart, it's like a natural stop. I need to get rid of that because now it hangs over the opening and it's ugly. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off real quick and get back to the box here. All right, so I made a little cut here and there and got this little flange to fold down. And what I'm gonna do is continue that on down to this bracket. I'll run a 90 on that this way, and then just use these bolts to attach it to the console. Console will have to be out when this box is installed either way, because it just physically will not fit down in the console lid, the opening on the other side. So it doesn't really matter how I attach it, I guess. I was trying to think, how can I make it, you know, go together? Because when you're building a car custom, that's one of the big hurdles, I think, is trying to figure out, hey, how can I make this, take it apart and put it together so that I can service it maybe and even paint it, finish it. You know, all that good stuff has to be taken into account. And a lot of times I don't even think about that. I just blow through something and realize I can't even take it apart to fix it or clean it or paint it or anything. So just something to think about. I was also thinking about putting some sort of a port back here for a charger, or even buy a wireless charger. I think I said that before, in the base of this, so that I could just sit my phone down in it and magnetize to it and charge it. So something to think about that. Also, you know, is this going to interfere with my shifter? It's way up here, but I've got a cable that loops down and comes around. So do I want to put it on this side or do I want to put it this side? Which would make a better choice? Or do I want to put it on the back side? So the wiring for that port. So things to consider. Obviously, I'm not going to cut it out right now because I'm still in the beginnings of that, but just thinking about 2 or 3 steps ahead how am I going to make this work? So I'm going to go ahead and extend this on down and 90 it so that I know it'll work, and that way I can have a pattern. I'll get this cut out and taped together, pulled apart, and then I'll be able to lay it out on whatever material I choose. All right, so as you can see, I went ahead and reassembled the dash, and I was working on charging my microphone because I had to get a new one because the last time I videoed, which you'll see on this video, I dropped my camera and broke my microphone. So I had a little delay in production there, but that's okay. That's what happens sometimes. Anyway, I also went ahead and assembled the console bracket here, the inner box that I've built out of plastic. I found some ABS plastic, and I warmed it up and molded it pretty easy actually. The way it's mounted in there, it's nice and secure. We'll do a little bit of plastic welding on it in the corners and get it sturdied up. And there's a few little spots here that I've cut out that are a little bigger than they need to be, but just wanted to make sure I had room for that mechanism here on this hinge. So if I want to put a spring or a gas strut or something like that on it, so when I push down, pop it open, it opens up itself. So I plan on putting a little pad on the top so it'll have a little more weight on it. So I may need that extra help to open it up, other than myself manually, lifting it up. But anyway, working on this dash moving forward a little bit, this is the part that I really wanted to work on and get blended in a lot better. You can see it doesn't quite match here. It's a little proud here. And I don't think I've left any room for really any adjustment on it. So not a lot, but I really don't want a whole lot because then I'll be fighting to get it lined up perfect every time. May need to put a spacer underneath there. Assembling it's kind of a pain. because all this is going to be put together, controls and all that. I don't have a way of getting back there to put these in. So I may need to put a little spacer. I'll show you in a second. I'll put a little spacer underneath here to get that stud down a little bit further. But I noticed here is where I want to put a little filler. It's catching right there, but it's smooth here. So I'll skim across that and get that tightened up a little better. I'm wondering if I should put a little weld on there and tighten that gap up too. But if I put mud on the face of this, it should be okay. That heat's going to get on that plastic and affect that. So I need to think about that before I start adding mud. If I can get that adjusted a little better. I need to just get a ratchet with a socket on it. Be a little easier than this wrench. I'll get in here easily and get to it, but I'm trying to think, how am I going to install this? If I install it with the dash, so I'm going to install the dash first. Then I'll slide this underneath there. It should be able to slide straight forward and match it with here, because these are down below the bottom of the dash. If I do that with this in place, how am I going to get in here to, that's what I was saying before, you got to think about how this is going to be assembled first. Custom stuff like this, that's the one thing you got to think about. How am I going to put it together when final assembly and not trying to scratch everything, all your finishes and things of that nature. So it's definitely going to need some work here. But this gap's fine, other than I probably should add a little more to that. I'm just going to mark on it where I want to weld. I won't be able to do this in this video because I'm just running out of time doing this one. So I'll have to show you this in a future episode. But just thinking about assembly is probably something that's a lot of times overlooked. I wasn't thinking about it much until you start putting components in the car that don't belong, or when you're going to make them belong. And then how am I going to reassemble this thing? So obviously you can see this still got some rough mud work on the top there, but once I get this smoothed out, I really feel like that's the final, that's the last bit of mud. I may have to, just a few little touch-ups, but nothing major like this big swath of mud here. That's just because of the way it transitioned up, it changed shape right in here and having a spot that I just couldn't get out because lack of skill, I guess. I don't know how to do it. So mud over a little bit. It's not a lot of mud, so I'm not really slapping a bunch on there. Still got all this to do, and now that I wanted to assemble this so I can see if I needed to weld on it anymore before I mud it, and now that I see I have to weld it. Still thinking about how I'm gonna get the ribs across here, and again, I'm just going back over what I'm thinking here out of my head. So still making progress. I've got a list of things I want to do. We'll move on from the dash because I'm still going to wait and see about getting some gauges for it. Appreciate you guys watching Big Lake Hot Rods. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and stick around and see next week's video, and we'll continue with the progress. So thanks again. See y'all next time.